So over the past few months, we've discussed different artists and individuals that would quote unquote call upon demonic spirits to either help them write songs or have songs completely given to them from another realm. This many times has resulted in many of them becoming Grammy Award winning artists and selling millions of records. Well, if that's what it takes to sell millions of records, then what would it take to become one of the most successful musicians of all time, the king of pop, and to sell billions of records? Michael Jackson got his song ideas 3 different ways and is by far the best example of using witchcraft to get hit records and the most demonic way to become arguably the most powerful channeler and sorcerer we've ever seen in music history. And I will prove that in this video. If you want the uncensored version of this video, please consider becoming a member of the Patreon. For those of you who are already members of the Patreon, we just released a video revealing part of the Epstein list. Yes, you heard me correctly, the actual list. There's a guy who's been doing research over the past 4 or 5 years, and I would have loved to drop it on YouTube, but YouTube has been giving me a lot of trouble with uploading that video, so you can find it on my Patreon. And because it's very difficult to focus on many things in this country without talking about what's going on with Donald Trump and in the White House right now, so I will be dropping a follow-up video on Patreon 100% proving how it was predicted and proven that not only Donald Trump will be elected as president, but everything that's going on right now with the Jeffrey Epstein list and the confusion that's going on in the country is 100% planned. And I will prove that on Patreon. Link is in the description if you would like to become a member. Michael Jackson is one of the greatest and most influential artists of all time. And in my opinion, he's the greatest performer that I've ever seen before, and it's not even close. Michael Jackson was born on August 29, 1958. He was the 8th of 10 children. His father, Joe Jackson, worked in a steel mill and managed the family's music group. His mother, Catherine, stayed home and supported the children's interests in music and faith. In 1964, Joe Jackson started their music group, the Jackson Brothers, and Michael would join when he was just 5 years old. Even at that age, Michael stood out for his voice and his energy. During the early years, it was very well documented that Michael's dad would give him a hard time, even making fun of the shape of his nose, calling it quote-unquote fat, which resulted in the feeling of insecurity for Michael. It was also said that his dad would physically abuse him as a consequence for making mistakes within the band. It is even said that Michael's dad forced him to undergo hormone treatment to prevent his voice from changing. Even Michael's physician confirmed this story. At some point, Joe would give Michael the opportunity to sing lead alongside his brother, and it would be then that Joe would change the name of the group from the Jackson Brothers to the Jackson 5. In 1965, they started performing and winning in local talent shows and even adult clubs, despite the fact they featured adult dancers. In August 1967, the group would perform and win at the Amateur Night at the Apollo in Harlem, New York, which would then catapult their career and opportunities, eventually leading to a couple of record deals. In 1968, they signed with Motown Records. Their first single, I Want You Back, hit number 1. Other hits followed, such as ABC, The Love You Saved, and I'll Be There. In 1969, the group would be introduced to the world by Diana Ross in the Miss Black America beauty pageant, which resulted in Michael receiving most of the spotlight, with Rolling Stone calling MJ a young prodigy. By 1972, Michael released solo music while staying in the group. His early solo songs like Got to Be There and Being were very successful, but Michael's early success came with pressure. He often said he didn't have a normal childhood. While other kids were playing, he was working, performing, and preparing for shows. In 1975, the group would leave Motown Records and rename themselves the Jacksons and would release 6 more albums after this point. Then Michael would eventually go solo again, releasing his 5th solo studio album, Off the Wall, with the hit single Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, and the rest is history. That's probably a lot of things that you already know about Michael Jackson, but let me share some things about Michael Jackson that you probably don't know that played a huge role in the success or the secret behind the success to his career. Oftentimes what I hear is Michael is, very well soft-spoken and he was against the agenda, and it's very difficult to believe if he was into these evil things. But MJ only spoke out against the music industry later in his career when the elites stopped working with him and started going against him personally. Before that point, he 100% benefited from all the perks and even exploited many artists, including the same black musicians he claimed record labels would take advantage of.
how serious was that
No, I think-
competition? Because
no.
we hear stories all the time.
Mike definitely stopped me from working with a lot of people at that time.
Like who?
Just a lot of artists. A lot of artists was calling me to work at that time, and Mike was just like, "I'll pay you not to work with them." Yeah, she was like, he was like, I need you," and it wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing of I'll pay you not to work with them because they're not good or anything like that. It was more so I need you here, focused and locked in on what we're doing.
It's a very well-known fact that MJ was an extremely selfish and greedy artist, to the point that he would not only steal records from other people, but he would hoard most of the best songs that other people wrote, so that he would take credit for the songs over other musicians. And just because someone is soft-spoken does not mean they didn't delve into evil spirits, rituals, and practices. And by the end of this video, you'll 100% see MJ completely differently than the way you see him now. MJ had way too much power and influence globally to not have been controlled. One of the biggest controversies surrounding Michael Jackson that I'm sure a lot of us know about are the accusations with him and little boys. Many say he was innocent, many say he was guilty. Many even argue that regardless of either being true, the reason he was so infatuated with hanging out with children is because he didn't really get to have a childhood himself due to his father forcing him to be a professional musician since a young age. But my personal opinion doesn't really matter, and honestly, I'll leave that part for you all to discuss based on all the information I'm going to give you in this video. But speaking of Michael Jackson and his career, earlier I mentioned how Diana Ross was part of the reason that they blew up. She, for the most part, introduced them to the world. What a lot of people don't know is that Michael Jackson actually lived with Diana Ross for a year when he was just 9 years old, despite the fact that she was 14 years older than him, during a time in which MJ would allegedly call her both his mom and his girlfriend. Which reminds me of the Diddy Usher situation, which we will be speaking about Diddy later because he will be relevant when it comes to the death of Michael Jackson. What I can say about Michael Jackson, though, is that I noticed something about him, just like I noticed about a lot of other celebrities, that always confused me, and it was the symbolism in their videos, their pictures, and their album covers. Michael Jackson can be seen as a child doing the one-eye symbolism, which are 100% Masonic or Freemason poses. So you can see him from the one-eye symbolism, the code of silence, or the sworn to secrecy pose, or even the 666 hand gesture. And it wasn't just in his childhood that he did this, as even when he was an adult, he continued to do the one-eye symbolism. And one of the most symbolic album covers of all time will be Michael Jackson's Dangerous album, which features the Masonic all-seeing eye, the twin pillars of knowledge, and even a young child only covered by an animal skeleton. And even on this album cover, you can see the Masonic checkerboard flooring, the red, white, and black color theme that you see in a lot of people's album, including multiple Michael Jackson photo shoots and albums, and even the moon crescent that represents moon magic. We've covered several artists in the past, whom many are public and open Freemasons, displaying the same imagery in their music videos and photos as well. Moon magic has also been spoken about many times on this channel, as Aleister Crowley heavily teaches about this in his books and his religion, Thelema, that we just covered in the XXX Tentacion video, where I 100% proved that XXX Tentacion was a follower of Aleister Crowley, and he wasn't even secretive about it. Not to mention, I have to mention this, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band album cover by the Beatles that feature many influential and controversial figures, especially in the music industry, such as Karl Marx, Bob Dylan, and yep, you guessed it, even Aleister Crowley himself. And even though MJ is not on this album cover, it 100% connects to MJ because MJ was very close to the Beatles, specifically Paul McCartney. But not only that, MJ infamously, as a lot of us know, would go on to buy the Beatles catalog. And so that connected him directly to the Beatles. But I want to talk about the reason that he bought the Beatles catalog, because it wasn't just about a flex. It wasn't about money, because MJ was already rich. I personally believe, and there are other people that believe, that MJ actually bought that catalog so that he can channel the spirit of Aleister Crowley, because there's a lot of Beatle records that never came out, and there's a lot of rituals that went into MJ's music that we're about to cover. So I thought it would be very interesting for me to do something. I wanted to kill, 3 birds with 1 stone. And what I mean by that is, one of the most popular videos on this channel is the young lady that talks about the girl who was dating the guy who, quote unquote, sold his soul to the devil in order to make it in the music industry and would later get a record deal. Well, a lot of people typically tell me in my videos, they feel like I'm sharing this, I'm openly giving spells out on YouTube. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. I'm not going to give any spells out in this video. I'm not going to directly share it. 2, I'm still going to drive the point home about Michael Jackson, the evil practices that he delved into, and the ways in which he got his songs. And 3, I'm going to put you all onto Pastor G. Craig Lewis, who we talked about on this channel before, who did an incredible job. All my research was lining up with all the things that he talked about. So I figured, why not just include the clip where he's talking about it? He's going to deliver it maybe much better than I could anyways. And I want to direct you all to his channel so that you can find more information similar to the videos I make on this channel. And then on the other side, I'm going to tell you all, and we're going to break down 2 of MJ's songs piece by piece so you can see that MJ was not as innocent as many people think that he was.
My studies on this man has done is really summed everything that I've been preaching for the last 10 years up in the one person. On the surface, people cried and wept and mourned. Churches celebrated and wore a glove and sung. They sung his songs, and they didn't know that they were celebrating the most powerful Nephilim our music industry has ever seen. This ancient God that was in this man literally stole your heart with some music. When he transformed himself into a woman, you didn't care. Stole your heart. When child molestation charges were brought up against him, you knew they were false because he stole your heart. When he bought the Beatles anthology so he could channel Aleister Crowley through it, he stole your heart. When he practiced witchcraft and became one of the most powerful channelers that we've ever seen, I'm going to show you. First thing Aleister Crowley teaches you in the 777 is to channel a powerful entity. Most of the time you get it out of a child. We'll talk about that later. But when this entity comes upon you, so what he did, he went and found the worshipers of Sybil, or we would say Cybele. Cybele was an ancient goddess. So those men that worshiped Cybele were different. They were called Corybants. Now you've heard the term, man, you're acting like a Corybant, or you're acting Corybantus, which means wildly. But the group of men that cloned this phrase were worshipers of this goddess, Cybele. And let me describe these to you. Now these are some notes from any old encyclopedia. Corybantes, they had their hair dressed and waved like women. They were heavily made up with their faces resembling whitewashed walls. They were castrated and keepers of children and infants, partaking in coming-of-age rituals and celebrations. They practiced magic and divination to make money. Listen to this. They made wild cries or high-pitched shrills while they performed their dances to the music of pipes and dull beats of the tambourine. Listen, when the deity or the goddess would enter into them, they were possessed by divine power. They would dance uncontrollably in ecstatic frenzy. Here are some pictures just so you can get a good look. And I'm not, listen y'all, please be serious with me. This is not funny at all. This man died in this, okay? This is not funny. But he literally got put on our magazines. But just as like Michael, the archangel, I mean, the Bible says that we were made in God's image and his likeness. So our look is not far from God's look. But right here, they've got Michael and trying to make you think this is like Michael, the archangel, some seductive looking angel, because he kept his face in an ambiguous fashion where he really was genderless. Corybants. Let's go through some of his songs so you can kind of hear his signals, because they always have to signal you. We Are the World. There's a line in We Are the World that is so demonic it's hard to believe that folks sung this in their churches in celebration to Michael Jackson. And it's down here. Michael wrote this part. It says, send them your heart so they'll know that someone cares. Y'all know. And your lives will be stronger and free. Y'all remember that? Then he says, as God has shown us by turning stones to bread. If Jesus had obeyed Satan and turned stones to bread, all of us would be lost right now. Folks didn't even get it. They waiting for me to finish the song. Here is a song where he's describing the Nephilim spirit in him and telling you that the end is near. This is a song called Another Part of Me. There he is dressed up like Evil Maria in the same thing like Beyonce wore. He said, we're taking over. We have the truth. This is the mission to see it through. Don't point your finger. Not dangerous. This is our planet. You're one of us. Okay, it sounds like he's talking something friendly or whatever, but listen. We're sending out a major love. This is our message to you. The planets are lining up. What does it mean in astrology? What does it mean in Greek mythology? What does it mean in the Mayans and the Sumerian cultures? All of these different cultures. What does it mean when the planets line up? That's the day that Nimrod comes and takes his throne and finishes the Tower of Babel, the uncapped pyramid. They are all in line waiting for you. Can't you see you're just another? Says in this song, nasty boogie bugs me like somebody has drugged me. The spellbound rhythm gets on my feet. I changed my life completely. I seen the lightning leave me. And my baby just can't take her eyes off me. Look, the magic music moves me. That dirty rhythm grooves me. The devil's got into me with his dance. They don't believe it, Pastor, because it's Michael. I'm full of funky fever. A fire burns inside me. Boogie got me in a super trance. Blame it on the boogie. Quincy Jones said that when he finished this song, he couldn't stop dancing. He ran out in the street and he was dancing uncontrollably. Oh, I'm not done. I haven't even started. There were 3 ways Michael Jackson would get his songs. You got to hear this part because I believe this is what led to Michael Jackson's death. Hope they come talk to me about it because I'll give them some information from the Holy Ghost. I don't need a forensic scientist. Look at somebody and say, all you got to do is ask God. God laid this out to me as plain as day. The 3 ways Michael Jackson got his songs. The first way, Michael Jackson said, he told Martin Brashear on an interview that he would climb a tree called the Giving Tree, tree of knowledge. Tree of knowledge. He climbed this tree and he would get his songs.
The climate is a problem for Jackson. He says the colour-changing skin condition vitiligo has made him allergic to the sun. So, shielded by his umbrella, he took me to his most secret place.
I call it my giving tree because it inspires me. I love climbing trees in general, but this tree I love the most because I climb up high and I look down on its branches and it gives me, I just love it, so many ideas. I've written so many of my songs in this tree. I wrote Heal the World in this tree, Will You Be There, Black or White, Childhood.
Second way, Aleister Crowley said in his book, 777, that he had a room of mirrors, and if you look into a mirror you can look into yourself and you can channel the spirits of those that were before you. He's really saying that those that may have molested you or those that may have taken from you, you can bring them back and ask them to be your guide and tell you why they did what they did to you. So Michael Jackson created a mirror, a room of mirrors that he could go in and channel spirits. And Michael Jackson chose a specific spirit. He says this, he says, I have my own secret room with a moving wall and mirrors, okay? Same room that Aleister Crowley had. He says, this is where I talk to Liberace. I hear his voice in there. I feel his presence so very close to me. He's like my guardian angel. He even gave me permission to record his title, I'll Be Seeing You. That's in the Psychic News in 1987. Liberace, homosexual. Flamboyant homosexual. You channel the spirit of the most flamboyant homosexual of our time. And the third way is the way I believe Michael Jackson died. He said that his best songs came in dreams. Michael Jackson would channel Morpheus, the god of dreams, who studied under Serapis Bey. Serapis Bey is the image that Catholics use as the image of Christ, but it's not. He has the Ra, the sun god, behind his head. He looks just like Christ, but it's not. Just like Semiramis and Nimrod, that whole thing I told you about earlier. But he was an Egyptian incarnated god, so he would channel those spirits. He also channeled the spirits of Hypnos and Thanatos. Hypnos is the god of sleep. Thanatos is the god of death, and they're brothers along with Morpheus. Now, what becomes very dangerous about what Michael was doing, if you read, Michael Jackson would sleep sometimes 3 and 4 days at a time because he was trying to get hit songs. He even said one time that he couldn't go to sleep. He said a spirit told him that if he did not get to sleep to get this song, the Spirit is going to give it to Prince. This is where the rivalry between him and Prince birthed in the 80s, if y'all remember that. But Michael needed to sleep, so they began to sedate him heavily so he could sleep the amount of time he needed to sleep to get hits. But a 50-year-old body trying to do a world tour, hungry for the next hit song, the right dosage. I know some people are saying, well, you haven't really convinced me. I'm about to. Michael Jackson had 2 albums that told everything that he was doing. The first album he had that I'm going to show you is his history album. He built a statue of himself like Nebuchadnezzar because that Nephilim spirit in him wanted to be worshipped. But if you zoom into his arm, there's a number on his arm, and that number is 777. Aleister Crowley's book, 777. Quabbalistic writings. Channel Nephilim spirits for fame. Get your songs from the devil.
All right, you seen that, you heard that. Something else I want you all to consider is that a lot of times when we listen to music, we get entranced and we get caught up in the way the music makes us feel. Yes, that's important, but that's not everything, because a lot of times the frequencies and the spells they put over these songs, it can mislead us to the point where we can literally be saying something super dangerous or super something we don't believe in. But because it feels so good, we just go along with it. We Are the World, which is one of Michael Jackson's biggest records. I remember when I was a kid, I was listening to that song. It just made me feel so good. I wanted to just be, kumbaya and hold hands and hug somebody. In fairness to MJ, it didn't make me want to do anything evil. But yet, I remember when I saw this video clip for the first time, and I just couldn't believe it. And it just showed me just how much we can be hypnotized. We Are the World by Michael Jackson is one of the most demonic songs ever. But you will never know it when you just listen to it because it sounds amazing. So I'm going to have this gentleman, I'm going to show you the video that changed everything for me when it came to Michael Jackson and how I perceive him and his music. I'm going to show you the video of the gentleman breaking this song down and telling you from the outfits that Michael Jackson wore, not just his connection to Aleister Crowley and his admiration of Aleister Crowley, but also how misleading and just flat out lying they did in these songs with their lyrics. Check it out. All right, everybody, I really hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show this part on YouTube because YouTube is threatening to issue me a copyright strike if I was to show this part, which is very unfortunate because I would argue that this section of the video is probably one of the top 1 or 2 most powerful parts of the entire video, and it's probably an additional 15 to 20 minutes that's going to be cut off of this video because I can't include this section. So those of you that are members of the Patreon, please be on the lookout for that. The extended and uncut version can't be found on Patreon. For those of you that are not members, once again, the link is in the description. Blew my mind. It blew my mind. The first time I saw that video, I was like, bro, what? I never thought about it like that because I was a kid. I didn't know. It reminds me, but there's so many other songs out there that are like that, including not just by Michael Jackson, but by other people. It reminds me of the song Ascension. If a lot of you all grew up like I did, listening to R&B and soul, there's a song called Ascension by Maxwell, one of my favorite Maxwell songs. If you listen to that song, first of all, it's an incredible record. But when you actually listen to what he's talking about, it's like, I thought this song was supposed to be about your love for a woman or how a woman makes you feel. Let's look at the lyrics of that song. He said, it happened the moment when you were revealed, because you were a dream that you should not have been, a fantasy real. So is he talking about a woman? Is he talking about Jesus? What is he talking about? You gave me this beating baby. You're not calling Jesus baby. So I guess we can put that together. He's not talking to God, calling God baby. This rhythm inside, and you make me feel good and feel nice and feel loved, gave me paradise. So shouldn't I realize you're the highest of the high? And if you don't know, then I'll say it. So don't ever wonder. Don't ever wonder. So shouldn't I realize you're the highest of the high? If you don't know, then I'll say it. So don't ever wonder. Now, if you're still wondering if he's talking about a person or whatever, or if you say, well, he's talking to God. This verse 2 says, so tell me how long it's gonna take until you speak, babe, cause I can't live my life without you here by my side. You gave me the feeling in my life. So clearly this person is not talking about A person, because he said you're the highest of the high, because you were a dream that you should not have been, a fantasy real, right? It's like when you get old and you look back on these lyrics like, wait, what was I singing along to? It's a Sade song, and I can't think of the name of it right now, but I'll put it on the screen. It's a Sade song that does the same thing. It's like she's literally talking to a spirit. That's literally what she's doing, but she's trying to make it seem interchangeable. Well, Michael Jackson had another song called Dirty Diana. And I remember when I was a kid, I was a kid that asked a lot of questions, y'all, if y'all wondering. One of the things I used to wonder in my head was, why Diana? Questions that anybody else would think, why does this matter? That's a stupid question, but it's not. I'm thinking to myself, why did you choose the name Diana and not Deborah? You know, not Daphne. He chose Diana. And I was wondering, I said, was that a common, colloquial name that was used at the time? Was it a stereotypical name you used? Was that just the general name you used for the girl that you liked during that time in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, or whatever? What was the reason he chose the term Diana? And then it was when I was doing research on another video some years ago, I believe it was Tupac or somebody, that I found out that Diana is actually, wait for it, a goddess. It's a Roman goddess. Yeah, so she was a goddess in ancient Rome, and she was worshipped by hunters, women for fertility and childbirth, slaves, and commoners. But check this out. While mainstream worship of Diana faded with the rise of Christianity, neo-pagan and Wiccan traditions today sometimes invoke Diana as a moon goddess or part of a triple goddess. Why is this important? I shouldn't have to tell you why this is important, because of its connections to Aleister Crowley, moon magic, and one could even go as far to say the way MJ, sort of evolved over time, right? I saw this meme many years ago that always stuck with me. MJ was born a young black man or a young black boy and died an old white woman. And even though the meme was meant to be funny, it's kind of sad to see the revolution or the evolution of MJ from his childhood up into his demise. But let's speak about his demise, because many people believe that Sony had MJ's doctor to take him out because MJ was actively suing and holding press conferences exposing Sony and their deceptive music tactics. And I personally believe that this idea that his doctor was used to take him out is not that far-fetched. Everything I'm saying is alleged, but I don't believe it's that far-fetched at all, because, believe it or not, MJ's doctor is, yep, you guessed it, a Freemason. A freaking Freemason. But not only that, here's something that a lot of other people don't know about MJ in his death. So remember I said I was going to bring up Diddy because he was going to be tied to Michael Jackson's death in the weirdest indirect way. So I'm going to try to make this fast and short. Rodney, remember we talked about the guy Rodney, who was a producer who used to work with Diddy, specifically worked on Diddy's album called Love, which is interesting because Aleister Crowley was big on the word love, but that's besides the point. I would digress too much if I got into that. Well, he was working with Diddy, and as many of us know, he would go on to sue Diddy. And in this long lawsuit against Diddy, he talks about, specifically in the lawsuit, it was one point in the lawsuit, he talked about how one night in particular, an incident took place. Diddy and his son allegedly pow-powed somebody. And when they allegedly pow-powed this person, there was a lot of blood, there was a lot of scene, there was a lot of blood, and there was a lot at the crime scene. But there's this person that Diddy would call whenever an incident would take place throughout Diddy's career. There's a person within the police system or the police world, police force. I don't know if he's active, inactive, or whatever, but he's from that world. I don't know if he's FBI, CIA, or whatever. But there's a person that Diddy would call who would come and then clean up the scene, either altogether, make it not as if it never happened, or paint it as if something else happened from the truth. Rodney said in his lawsuit, one night when Diddy and his son allegedly pow-powed somebody, this same person would show up. They cleaned up the scene and took a lot of that stuff outside the building to make it appear as if something else happened and Diddy wasn't the person that did it, and that whatever took place actually happened outside. Well, this same person that we're just going to call the security person was actually one of only two people that was present when Michael Jackson passed away. Now, would you look at that? Now, I don't want to make this video too long. Again, I do believe at the end of his career, just like Martin Luther King, if you haven't seen that video, you should really go and check out that video. It's arguably the best video I've ever dropped on this channel. Much like what I spoke about with Martin Luther King, I believe he meant well, but I believe he was affiliated and associated with people along the way that had other plans. And I believe that Martin Luther King's religious beliefs, a lot of people don't know what he actually believed about Jesus Christ. Just like a lot of people don't actually know what Michael Jackson really believed in, especially when it came to making music. A lot of people argue that he was for Christ right before he died. That may or may not be true. I hope it's true. But based on the information that I had, Michael Jackson was a high-level sorcerer all throughout his career. And that's why he was able to be as successful and thrive as much as he was in the music industry. Y'all in the comment section though, let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Was there something I shared this video that you didn't know? Hop in the comment section and let your boy know, man. I'm Demetrius. I go by Diddy. That's all for this one. Until next time. Peace. Oh yeah, Diddy got a podcast.